Guys, welcome back to a new episode this week. As you can see, there's a new person in here. I'm finally doing a second version of a podcast. It's not going to be 20 questions. It's just going to kind of be a conversation. I always like podcasts like this where the people are just talking and there's organic stuff going along. But today's topic is literally just going over what it feels like to be in a small town versus a really big city and how Atlanta plays into that. She's from a small town and has moved to Atlanta. I used to live in a small town in Tuscaloosa, Alabama when I went to college, but I've also lived in Huntsville, Alabama. You're from Dalton, Georgia, so a real small town, so she's definitely gotten it and grew up there as well. Actually, Huntsville is now the largest city in Alabama. So
Really?
It feels small town compared to the sixth largest city in the United States, like Atlanta, but it's still a pretty big place nonetheless. But I thought it was a cool conversation because there's so many different things. I've lived in Tuscaloosa, which actually is a small town, as I was talking about before in college. But I also lived in Los Angeles, which is as big as, like, besides New York or Tokyo or something.
Yeah.
That's like as big as it gets. So there's different ways to think about everything. There's like ways how everything interacts, and I think there's good and bad about both of them. And I think everybody who can fight over it can come to like a middle ground and acknowledge them. So, small town girl, what was fun about being in a small town?
So growing up in a small town, like you said, I grew up in Dalton, Georgia, and eventually moved to Atlanta. Dalton, Georgia was more like we didn't really have much to go out and do. You know, we'd go to school and just come home and hang out and just get on social media or play on our phones or maybe go outside and play. But we didn't really, even after high school, during college, we would just, the place to go was like to the movies or to just go out to eat, that was it.
Maybe that is different because I didn't have that experience. In a college town, it is different, but like small town in college.
Yeah, because I also went to Dalton State College, so it was definitely like we would just go out to eat, and that was like us hanging out with the friends, or we
so
just...
There weren't like...
We had to do more like extracurricular
there's
activities.
No clubs. There's not going to be...
No, there's no clubs, no bars, no really high-end restaurants. It was all like small-owned businesses. If we wanted to go to
pubs?
To party pubs.
Like a hole in a wall.
Maybe some for like, the older people would hang out there.
Really?
It wasn't like college. No, it was
not even like just like a hole in the wall like a spot, a watering hole. That's what you call it.
No,
the city boys trying to figure this stuff out.
No, we didn't have any like anything like that to go hang out. We didn't have karaoke night. We didn't have like at restaurants.
It's like there was, and she was just lame. No, you just want to hang out with her.
No, nothing like that. We just kind of, the place to go was like if we did want to go have fun and we were in college, we'd go to like Atlanta, which was an hour and a half from where I grew up. An hour and a half, or we'd go to Chattanooga, Tennessee, which was only like a 30-minute drive to downtown Chattanooga. So that was like the place to hang out if we felt like going out, Yeah. Everything else was like just movies or maybe the ice or the skating rink that we had in town.
So in Tuscaloosa, obviously, like it's a college town. It's a pretty big college town as well. Like there's bars, there's a ton of stuff. There's everybody from everywhere else coming in as well. But you're not always going out and doing stuff. Like, you got stuff to do, and there is just hanging out with friends a lot more. There's obviously hanging out with just friends in a big city kind of sense. But I feel like that a lot of times, like you're going out still. Like, you're going to you're going to a park or something, like a downtown Alpharetta or something else. Or you're just getting a beer, but you're still, like, going somewhere that's like purpose built. Yeah. It's not like home where everything has to happen or someone's house or like just like a local spot where everybody goes to. In Tuscaloosa, it was still like that. Like you didn't have these downtown squares or these bowling alleys or dog parks or all this like purpose built
Like
little
greenery.
stuff, that everybody
Yeah.
would go to
No.
for, like, that was very specific. You did a specific thing there, like
Right.
the belt line. You go to the belt
Right.
line and walk. It's free, but you're
Yeah.
still like doing a like activity.
Yeah, and then you have like concerts and
Yeah.
like food truck alleys and like Duluth.
Yeah,
and
you got all
Atlanta.
sorts of stuff
Yeah,
here.
we never had that either.
So
we didn't have like specific
there, it was
events.
just like
no,
you hung
nothing
out.
To do.
I was in a fraternity, so you would be at a fraternity
Uh-huh.
a lot of times, and you would just sit around and find something to do. But I like that. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it gives you a person, like
Yeah.
builds a character inside of you.
Yeah.
Like, you get so bored, and then also the relationships too.
The
Like,
the
you
relationship
really get
building.
close with people when
Yeah.
you're bored with them. It like doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
it's like it's a more genuine connection to the person.
Yeah, like
You're
you
not
sit
just
back and talk,
they're not just like
Yeah.
fun. They don't just like
party.
represent fun,
Mm-hmm.
and that they're always in a fun thing, and that you could put them in a scenario, you could put somebody else in there.
Yeah, because
When
like
you're in a small town, your
Yeah.
friends that's who you're hanging with, man. The house is nothing. It's all the friend.
Uh-huh.
It's all the people inside of the house
right,
that make
makes
it what it
fun.
is. Yeah.
Because that's another thing we would do is like just go to each other's houses and just hang out in the garage or like
It's a great
outside.
time.
Yeah, we didn't have concerts or green spaces like Alpharetta, like downtown Alpharetta, or
A lot of guys work on cars and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
I worked
while
on like
they're, like,
motorcycles and
drinking or-
cars, and that was a big
Uh-huh.
thing over there because
Yeah.
we would just sit around and, guys with beers,
Just talk,
sit
right?
there, and while
Yeah.
you're sitting there under the thing and something breaks, and now you're at your friend's house for the next 10 hours helping him
Trying
through
to
the
fix
night
it.
on a
Yeah.
Saturday. That doesn't happen. And I mean, maybe it does in like a car scene in Atlanta, but like
Yeah.
it's so much more common in a small town, especially if you get
Yeah.
into like a really rural area and you're
Yeah.
like you're helping each other out because all
Right.
sorts of things go on.
Yeah, with like
And you got to kind of do stuff yourself
do
out
stuff
there.
to have fun, create your own experiences. But Dalton is very rural, so I mean, you're able to get.
I was wondering, that was like how,
yeah,
because I have like a cabin in Ellaville. I was like,
Yeah.
that's rural. That's South Georgia. Is Dalton
Very-
that?
well, it's North
I feel
Georgia.
like Dalton's like
so
Americus or something.
It's I mean. It's really
like
small. I mean, we have a
Griffin,
few
Georgia,
high schools.
it feels
you
like,
know, we
yeah.
finally have a college, which now they're trying to make it into a university. So it is growing, and it's also the carpet capital of the world. So there are
That's the place. Yeah, I forgot what it was. yeah.
So there are lots of jobs, and that they focus on.
Is that really,
carpet
like,
and
still a
turf,
thing? It's
hardwood. Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
We actually there's a thing as you're like going into downtown that says "Welcome to Dalton, Georgia, carpet capital of the
Yeah.
world." Like everybody knows that, and people I've known people from Atlanta that drive all the way to Dalton just to buy their carpet for their house that they're building.
Yeah.
So either carpet or hardwood, turf. So it's known for that, and it's a really cool college too. There's nothing to like do, but I only went to college there because I lived there and I didn't have to pay for the out of state tuition, and I didn't have to pay for to live on campus. So it was
a big
just
thing.
easy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, and then
For sure.
finally, is there anything else you wanted to talk about with that?
I
Or we
was
can
I
move
was
into, like,
starting to think
Atlanta.
what Atlanta
The
does
differences.
differently than other really big cities. And there's like mediums, like Huntsville did this well, where they'd have little like almost like what's the one on McFarland? Halcyon?
Yeah, Halcyon. That's in
Yeah, it's like these
Coming.
little like separate
like-
whole development, like mixed use things.
Well, that's like downtown Alpharetta.
Yeah, it's like stuff like
Yeah.
that that's really common in
Wait,
Atlanta.
start over with that. Should we cut it?
No, we could keep going.
Oh, okay.
No cuts. No cuts here. We're just having a moment here.
Oops.
She's a cutter, I'm not. I just roll with it. But what we were saying is that like places here in Atlanta, there's so many different like little communities that make this huge metro area that in
Yeah.
super big cities you don't get. Like
Right.
Miami, you get it. New York, you don't. New York, you kind of, because you have neighborhoods and stuff like that. But Los Angeles felt super homogenous to me. I felt like Los Angeles felt the same everywhere. Even like different neighborhoods. Like Venice almost still felt the same as like Melrose. It just felt all like this homogenous thing, and it
Yeah.
almost makes you feel like you're in a small town. Like there's almost nothing to do again. Like it gets so big that it feels like there's almost nothing to do again, and it's like just there's too much going on, and so like you just
Yeah.
revert back to like hanging
not
out
doing
and stuff.
anything.
Yeah, like there's
Hanging out
always
at
something
home.
to do. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it just it almost reverts back. Like it is weird like that, how it gets too big, and I feel like
That's interesting.
like maybe like big and dense.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you've lived different places, more places than I
Yeah.
have. So you can compare all those places to Atlanta and the small towns
Yeah.
too.
Atlanta's like kind of feels like both. Atlanta
Yeah.
feels like, I feel like it pulls your attention the most though.
In Atlanta?
Like away from like hanging out at people's houses.
Right. That
Like
is
I feel like
true.
Atlanta has so much
Yeah.
little stuff going on that if someone's like, come hang at my
Yeah.
house and do X, Y, and Z, you'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
But
like when they say
nonetheless,
like,
you're gonna have fun.
but
But it's like weird. Maybe that's why the economy's so good here. They just
Yeah.
really get people out here.
it's like, well, it's like a medium level of things happening, like maybe a few things during the week and then some during the weekend, but it's not like an every day there's an
It's
event.
not there's so much happening
going on.
that you just
Right.
become numb to it.
Yeah.
Like there's enough to make you
Yeah,
like
wanna go
Man,
out,
it's an
yeah.
addictive cycle
Yeah.
over here in
And
Atlanta
it's
of doing stuff.
fun. Very family friendly events.
Yeah, that's
the
the cool
biggest
thing.
Yeah.
I think that's
There's
it's not
lots
like
of-
clubbing and
No.
stuff and just stuff that gets old.
Right.
It's like Live in Roswell, like
Yeah.
there's food, there's
Those-
stuff where you don't
It's a
it
festival.
doesn't run down
yeah.
your battery.
No, and it's
There's a
very
lot of stuff to
family
do.
friendly event. I mean, Duluth has a fall festival that's held on the
Mm-hmm.
weekend. They have food truck alleys that they bring in all the food trucks, and they,
Yeah.
very family friendly too. And then downtown Alpharetta
We'll
does
have little
the,
concerts and stuff like that.
concerts, Yeah,
but like
downtown.
if you want to go out and you want to
Yeah.
make it an event, you
Yeah.
can. But
right,
if you
and
don't,
bring all the friends or the
you can
family.
be in and out.
Yeah, and everything pretty much within the metro area is like 30 minutes driving from each different
everywhere,
city.
yeah, everything's 20 minutes from everywhere
20,
else.
30 minutes, which isn't bad because then you could just make the drive there, or you could even Uber there if you wanted to, But then there is always something going on, right?
So what changed for
yeah.
you from moving to Dalton
Here,
to here?
yeah. For
'Cause you didn't go right
me,
into the city. You're still in the
I'm
suburbs.
still, yeah. I'm like
But, I
25
mean,
minutes from the
you
city.
could always go into the city. Super
Yeah. Oh, super quick.
easy.
Yeah, especially when there's not any traffic. For me, I just wanted a change of scenery. There's not much going on in Dalton that I was like, well, I want to make new friends. I want to get to know people. Also, I was having a change of careers, so got into real estate when I moved to Atlanta. So that was another thing, like a career change, an area change. I didn't have any friends or know anybody in this area, so I had to go out and actually meet people, which is a very good place to do in the Atlanta area because everybody's out like hanging out with friends, and you can just walk up to people either at the festivals like the Alive at 5 and talk
Yeah,
to
people are
people,
super
meet
friendly.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
super friendly, and you can make friends so easily. I mean, there are apps and websites and groups, social groups that you can make friends on and go to like trivia night, karaoke night. You could just go to the lake together, go hiking together because there's places to hike here too. So it's like a little bit of everything, and there are so many just different groups that have all these people that love that one thing, and you just
Yeah.
go, and you don't have to commit if you don't like it. You could do something else the next time.
It is like a city where
yeah.
there's people that like everything.
Yes.
It's not like Colorado
Right.
where it's just
Like it's just
like
hiking.
you gotta
or
go
just-
hiking.
Yeah.
Like you gotta or
Yeah.
New York, it's like you
Yeah.
gotta go to this bar. You gotta eat this
you
pizza.
gotta go to this
like it's
rooftop,
everybody's
yeah.
kind of feels like they're doing the same thing. LA's like
Right.
that too.
Oh.
It feels
okay.
like people have their hobbies, but
Yeah.
they're all kind of doing the same thing.
The
Like
same
here
stuff.
it is really different.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
you
you
could have
have-
someone who likes fishing or someone who likes going out on the lake
Yeah.
and hiking and stuff like that, or you could have people who've
Yeah.
never left Atlanta, like they're just
Right.
all in Atlanta all the time.
Yeah.
And then even inside the city, they're doing all sorts of
Right.
different stuff.
Like there's free concerts if you like live music.
Yeah, there are a
or,
lot of free
Like
concerts.
there are rooftops that have food and drinks and
everywhere else
know,
has that.
live
I don't know how to
music.
say it's different. It just does feel
Right.
different. I think it's like I
Well,
think it's
I
that
don't.
things are spread out. That it kind of it's like everything's like its own neighborhood.
Like maybe the culture, right?
Like everything feels a little bit different, and that like
I see.
novelty sticks. Like you're in a constant state of some level of novelty. Whether you're like Brookhaven feels different than Alpharetta,
Yeah.
like West Midtown feels different than
Yes.
Midtown. Virginia Highlands feels different than Midtown. Like every
Right.
little thing, Duluth feels different than all of those. Marietta
Yeah.
and Ackworth feel different. You go to Lake Lanier or Gainesville,
And
you're
then go
like
to
in a
Lake
different, like
Allatoona.
it's like traveling, but you're in the same place.
Right, and it's all within like 30 minutes driving
Yeah.
time. So, and there's something to do for everybody. Like we said, I mean, concerts that are free or some that you can pay for. I don't know, karaoke night, trivia night, bingo night. I mean, all these different restaurants and rooftops have nights like this. So there's something for everybody. But yeah, what else would you say is different compared to Atlanta with the places that you've lived in?
So with Tuscaloosa, I think that's more just college town versus big city. But as far as Madison goes, this is the thing I really liked about a small town is that all of I don't know if like Atlanta's the same, but all of like the neighborhoods in Huntsville, like if you were a kid, you could go bike to basically everybody's house. Like it
Yeah.
was all pretty close together. And like all the neighborhood was kind of like in one area. Like they're kind of on one street. And everybody, all your friends that you went to school with, because that might be it. The districts was very like centralized in Madison.
Oh, okay.
There were schools out more rural areas, but everybody kind of lived next to each other in Madison. And that kind of is like it here, but here it's also, it feels so big that you can't, like you're going through like a kid, like biking all around. Like I grew up in Dunwoody, so biking all around everything was like weird. And I feel like in Midtown it would be weird too. Maybe like Virginia Highlands or like other parts of Atlanta, like on the south side, it would be much more like that. Like that small town thing where everybody's kind of like in the same like place. And if you're a kid, you can go to everybody's house. But I feel like if you're on the north side of Atlanta, you lose that. Like you have to drive around everywhere because it's so spread out.
Yeah.
And there's so many hills.
True.
There was one hill. It's called Rainbow Mountain,
Madison?
and that was it. And everybody lived on one side or the other side.
Okay.
And if
I
you
have
wanted
heard
to
of that
go over,
mountain.
you'd be like, "Nyeh."
That's like there's a hiking trail, right?
Yeah.
There, Rainbow Mountain.
There's that,
Okay.
and then there's the Trail of Tears comes out the other side, like where the
okay.
Indians came.
Yeah.
It's on the other side of that.
Oh, good to know. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Was it like that in
Madison.
Dalton where everybody, like you're a kid and everybody's kind of like all in the same little place? Because I love that about Huntsville. It was the best.
You mean like in the same neighborhood or like?
Like all the
same
neighborhoods are
place?
stacked together and like kids could go, like you could find your friends without having to drive and get in your parents' car and go somewhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we always lived in a neighborhood, so we would play just with the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
That we would go to school with. So ride our bikes and our scooters and
It's kind of
just
like
play.
that here.
Yeah.
I just didn't live in a big neighborhood. I lived in like an older.
Yeah.
If you have kids in Dunwoody, don't live on the Sandy Springs side of Dunwoody.
Yeah.
Like live in like the Dunwoody proper side where there are all the neighborhoods connect together.
Yeah.
Because that was a lot better. I think but it's a thing here, like Johns Creek.
Yeah, and Alpharetta.
You get these huge neighborhoods, and
Yeah.
there are kids in these big old
Right.
neighborhoods.
Yeah, and everybody knows each other.
So if you are
and-
buying something, that's like that is like the size of your neighborhood and like how close it is to everything
Right.
else. Like you kind of
Yeah.
do have to like think about that if you're planning on having maybe not your first home, but the middle home where you're gonna have the largest span of time.
Yeah.
Unless you're transient and corporate, like you're very transient. Like if you plan on staying somewhere a long time, you should probably that jump from first to second should be a very significant jump because it should be probably a big enough house to keep you there for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
So where your
maybe.
kids can grow up in a place and
Right.
be familiar. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And maybe depending on if you want city living or like the suburban life too, because you could find, either condos in Buckhead in the city of Atlanta, but also some really nice houses too. So it's like there's something there for everybody.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what kind of lifestyle you want. Like, do you want to just have everything and be right in the city and just be able to walk everywhere, like Midtown and Buckhead, right? Or be out in Alpharetta, Johns Creek area, Roswell, but you do have to drive places unless you get like a house
Like
within walking
downtown
distance
Alpharetta,
to like downtown Roswell, downtown Alpharetta. So it's more like Alpharetta
what
and
do you
Roswell are
think's
like
better?
more spread out than Buckhead and Midtown.
What's better to grow up in?
Ooh, for me, I would say like you mean
Because think about it. You're in a small town. You have like that cherished small town. Like
the
you
mentality
probably, yeah.
too.
Like you can grow up and have a very crap life growing up in a small town. Like no, it's not all sunshines and rainbows
No.
like the country songs make it. But you can usually have like some level of, I guess, innocence maybe. Like you have that kind of like
maybe closed-minded too. It's like maybe not so much closed-minded.
maybe not as cynical to the world.
Yeah.
You're not, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
But it has its own characteristic feel. Like you grow up and you realize, like you grow up being bored, and being bored, I feel like builds character, or wanting to latch out and get out to like somewhere bigger and better.
The world, yeah. Instead of like watching TV and watching movies or playing
Like
video
if you
games.
grew up in
know?
Dalton and then
Yeah.
you were like, I'm gonna go to New York, and then you
Yeah.
went to New York, I feel like you'd be a
That's
lot
a
more on the
big
ball
jump.
in New York.
Yeah.
You're like,
That's
let's go make
like
the best
more-
of it. Like
yeah.
I'm here, let's go. That's how I felt in Los Angeles.
Oh.
Like it was like, let's go, let's
like it's
go.
just
Like
so
we're
fast
here.
paced, right?
Yeah, it was
That's
like,
what I would say.
It's like
Yeah.
this invigoration. But if you grew up in Los Angeles and you grew up in New York, you would never
Yeah.
have that. It's like if you were
Right.
born rich, you would never feel how good it is to be rich, and you would just stagnate.
Right.
But if you were
poor
and then you grew
Yeah.
up and became rich, you would.
you
I
kind
feel like
of-
you would carry the ball and keep going,
yeah,
kind of thing.
Like
So I feel like
you'd move.
it's
Yeah.
good to grow up in a small town, but
Because I always knew that I was going to move and get out of Dalton when I grew up. I just was like, I'm going to get out of here. I want to go to the big city. I want to see skylines. There's, see views instead
Pick
of
the
like
next
just
city.
mountains. Yeah. And I didn't really, I just picked the biggest, city, the closest one.
Yeah.
It could have been Chattanooga, but
Thank
I was
God,
like, that's
right.
too small. So I just moved to
Yeah.
Atlanta, and I don't know where I'm going to go from here. Maybe I'll just stay here. I'm still in the suburban, but I'm getting the feel of both though, because I do go to Buckhead
Yeah.
and Midtown quite a bit. So I get the feel of both. So it's kind of like, still fairly close to the city, and it is city living. Compared to where I was before. So I always knew I wanted to move to a bigger city. I don't know where, if I'm ever going to move from Atlanta. So, because I kind of like it, it's
like
it's
you go
different.
to anywhere
You're
else
more,
you'd want to like think about.
You're just people, are just more open-minded in the city. It's like just more opportunities, a career, meeting people. Just
It's a really good home.
Yeah, that too.
Like, I feel like if I was in Miami or New York, if I moved today, I wouldn't feel homely. Like I'd be like, I'm here to do something, and when I do that something,
You'll be gone.
I'll be probably wanting to get out.
Yeah.
And leave, kind of thing.
Okay. Well, yeah. I feel like Chattanooga is about the same as like Atlanta, just not as big, but it is growing. So, and Chattanooga, Tennessee is what I'm talking about. So they got a lot of
People are like,
attractions
who?
and
Probably the out-of-state people watching this are like, who the hell is that? What is Chattanooga?
I know. So that's why I felt
Wait
like
till
I
you hear
had to
about Chattahoochee,
specify.
man.
Oh my God, Chattahoochee is right around the corner from us.
Yeah.
Chattahoochee River. That to go tubing, right?
Yeah. It's another thing. That's
That
like a
is.
totally different thing you could do
Yeah,
here.
so even though if you're living in the city, there are still so many outdoor things you can do, like tubing down the
Yeah.
river, or even just going to the lakes, going hiking. What
There are a lot of
else?
parks here
Yeah.
that like
yeah.
aren't
Just
the
to
same.
play frisbee or I don't know, play soccer, take the dog out. I feel like a lot of people here in Atlanta have dogs and value dogs or just pets.
Los Angeles is
more in
kind of like that
general.
too. Like there was a
Uh-huh.
good bit of stuff you could do outside. Like
like-
you still had the beaches and the
Uh-huh.
mountains,
Okay.
and that was kind of it. It was like beaches and mountains.
Yeah.
There weren't like green areas.
Green
like we
areas,
kind of
like there
have
are
everything
here.
but a beach.
Yeah.
But we have lakes. So
Yeah, lakes. Well, even the beach is only like 4 hours. So if you were to drive to Savannah,
Yeah.
Georgia, for the beach out there, it's not the greatest, but it is a beach. And then as far as like pets, what I was saying before is that Dalton wasn't really, they didn't really like, you have pets and stuff, but people don't go out and bring their pets to hang out with friends or
Yeah.
family.
No, that
Like
would've
it's
been-
not very pet friendly, even though people love their dogs or their pets. But when I moved to the city, that was something different. I was like, I see people, the owners with their pets everywhere. Like they all gather around and bring their dogs to the parks or go out to eat and they have their dogs.
Yeah, that's like the
like
family-friendly
outside
thing.
patio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was very different. That's something that I really like because I do have a dog and I love taking him out and just enjoying time with him, whether it's hiking or just going to go, I don't know, grab something to drink with the friends and just hang out outside, go to the parks and stuff, give him a good time. Yeah. I don't know how it was with pets in Tuscaloosa or the other place. You said Los Angeles. I feel like
it
Los
was kind of that
Angeles-
small town thing where like
Yeah.
you're not gonna bring. I'd have my dog at my place probably a year.
Yeah.
But my roommates all had dogs and everything. It was like that. Like you kept your dog at home.
Yeah.
And then you went out.
Right.
And there was
That's how Dalton
like
is.
you couldn't bring your dog to like the restaurants or like
Right.
you going out and you're going to bars or
It's-
something like that. You can't
yeah.
bring your dog. You could bring it to the park.
Right. It's
But
just
other
like
than that, your
you.
dog was
Yeah.
like sitting inside and doing
Yeah.
stuff. If you had it was at your house. It wasn't like you couldn't bring it anywhere. There weren't dog parks.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
there was, but it wasn't like it wasn't a
was
thing.
like well
it was,
known.
or
Yeah,
it sucked.
yeah. And here in Atlanta, I feel like it is a thing. It's like there's dog parks everywhere, and you can.
There's dog parks
hang out.
here catered to the person. It's a dog park.
Yes.
But there's a bar, there's a restaurant.
there
It's
is.
like people catered.
Yeah.
The dog doesn't care. You could put a
Yeah.
3-foot fence
And
and
they'll
a
run
mud patch.
around.
Yeah, and they'll
Yeah.
go. They just need
They just need space to run.
space. So
Yeah,
that's
and it's
it.
a fence. It's fenced
Here they have
in.
like astroturf and little lights
Yeah.
hanging over the places and a bright
Little-
red fence,
Yes,
and
it's like-
all the little stuff, all the little
Uh-huh.
barn stuff to make it all.
It's so cute. They have
quirky and
they have
stuff.
TVs and like projectors so you can watch the football games or baseball games while your dog is running around.
It's a
and
people
you're-
park
Yeah.
disguised for dogs. here,
And it's
basically.
funny because humans can get in for free, but you have to pay to bring your dog. But it is, for the dog and for you to kind of hang out.
See
so
a dog
it
walk
is
in
fun.
like a trench coat, like a hat on.
Yeah, he's walking on like 2 legs.
He's like, where you
Ask
live?
for
He's
their
like,
ID. That's funny. Yeah, I think that's all for today, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So, would you rather grow up in small town or big city?
For me, I think the small town, growing up, just because
Yeah.
it's more family friendly, I feel like. And you're.
And
you're
I thought that
kinda-
as well.
Yeah. What about you?
But then I went, where do I want to have kids? And
yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to move to a small town again to have
That's
kids. So now
true.
it's like, you
You're
say it like this,
seeing
but
it-
then you're like,
yeah.
well, now I don't want to live in
In
a
a small
small
town.
town. Yeah.
And have a family.
Yeah.
Even though you would, okay, that makes sense. That is something to think about too. Yeah. Because I definitely would not move back to have kids, because it's just so boring. There's nothing to do.
See, okay.
Yeah.
This is where we're getting. It's nice to grow up in a small town because you don't know anything else.
Right.
So it's nice.
Yes.
Like it builds that character.
Yes.
But once you get to a big city, it was really hard. Unless you're
To
like
move back.
old and you already had kids and you just want to like
Yeah.
get somewhere quiet. Like it's hard to go into your like 30s, 40s and have
Yeah.
kids and move to a small town, especially when you're like having these career ambitions and stuff.
Yes.
So
Right. And then for the most
so
part.
then kids don't grow up in small towns because obviously you have parents.
Now, because now it's like people like us don't want to move back because
Yeah.
we did grow up there, and that's right. Okay, I see where you're going with that. So I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I see both sides. You know, and I don't think I would move back. So
Yeah.
I love where I am right now. If anything, I might just get closer to the city, but I'm sure I'll get tired of that eventually because it's so fast paced, kind of like, I mean, I wouldn't say as fast paced as New York, but I feel like it can be fast paced right in the city, right? Like Midtown, Buckhead. And I don't know. Some people that live there don't even own, like some of them don't own a car.
This is my gripe
Yeah.
about small town girls coming in. The city isn't that fast paced. Like you just walk places.
I guess I feel
Like you're
it's
kind of in your
fast-paced.
like if you go to a place to drive and get food, it feels the exact like you get in your car and you go and turn on music and you kind of like if no one's in the car talking to you or
Yeah.
if someone's in the car talking to you, have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
It's just that, but you're walking. The 10-minute car drive is a 10-minute walk. That's
Well,
it.
Because of traffic,
And
it's
like
10 minutes.
everything tunes out. Like the fast pace. When you're first there, like yeah, but like literally like the first month,
Yeah.
it tunes out.
You
like
get used
just,
to it.
Like you ignore everything.
I guess it's different for me because I did grow up my whole life. It was in a small town, and then I moved here, and it's
maybe
like
it's different as a
so
guy.
much going on.
Like a guy, you kind of tune out, but maybe a girl
Maybe.
walking alone would be a little more
Right, like
feel
you're more
fast-paced,
aware.
yeah.
You're just more aware. And I would say too, another thing before we let you guys go is parking. Parking just sucks. I feel like in the city because
Yeah.
you have to pay everywhere.
It's a stressful
to park.
event.
Yeah, especially if you drive a big truck or it's like it's easier if you have a compact car. And I've known people that live in Midtown and they don't own any cars because they work from home or they can walk to their job from where they live or where they're renting. So either they don't have a car or parking just for me just sucks when I go there.
Also, don't do that. If you live in Midtown, buy a freaking car. It sucks. Because all your friends are going to live everywhere else anyway.
Yeah.
And there's so many other stuff
'Cause
in Atlanta.
I
You're going to be
think-
like,
yeah.
oh, I don't have a car.
Right, because she would
Yeah.
she takes like the MARTA to get places if she absolutely has to. If not,
You
she
can
just
do
walks
it,
everywhere.
but you won't want to do it. That's why
Yeah.
they build all these carports and places in Midtown.
Yeah, but you have to pay everywhere to park, right? And then, and if you have a truck or something bigger, you're gonna be like, well, you're not gonna fit in these small parallel parking spaces, So then you have to like drive around trying to find parking.
Yeah.
And it's like anytime I go
You
out
get
there,
anywhere out of Midtown where they have like Virginia Highland, Midtown
Yeah.
Garden District, where it's
Yeah.
like houses and little streets.
yeah,
That's tough.
neighborhoods,
To have a truck
yeah.
in. That's tough. Parking garages you could get away with, but
Yeah.
those little
Yeah.
streets that
Oh,
it's
yeah.
nice to have a Corolla.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. And then sometimes like when I first moved to Midtown when I
Midtown.
first went to Midtown in Buckhead, I didn't realize that some of the roads were like one-way streets,
You didn't
And
get
so,
that?
No, I
Oh,
didn't realize
man.
that. And I was like, what the heck? So I'd make some wrong turns sometimes. So I'd have
That's
to like
crazy,
turn
man.
around.
Now you know
Yeah.
why we got bad drivers too. Is these little town people coming
that
over
move
here.
in. Yeah. So that's I think that's it for now. This
Yeah,
is
that's
a
about
good
it. That's pretty much it.
conversation.
So, small town, great to grow up in. I think once you get the
Yeah.
career things, the aspirations
Settled.
and things, it's very American way of thinking about it. But once it happens, you're like, we need bigger and better. We need like more stuff going on, and just a factor of how economies and cities work. There's more
Yeah.
opportunity. There's gonna be bigger players in cities. There's gonna be the
Right.
Googles in cities
Like
and the Microsofts
actors.
and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. There's the
Right.
Political stuff like that gets every person caught up, like the fame and the dreams and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then
It's
you
hard to
also
see in a small
have
town.
right. You have like the big sports games that happen. People get together to watch football too,
yeah.
or like the big games. Or you could just drive up and go to the actual stadium. Whereas in the small town, you don't really have that. And there was another thing you mentioned that was really good. The sports, and then I forgot what it was. What I was
Like
going
the
to say.
political, like the fame and dream.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
that, like more just aspiring actors and actresses, models, all in the bigger city. Whereas that are actually making it happen. Then when you're back at home, you don't meet anybody like that.
I feel like most people. Did you
Yeah.
feel that? Like you were
Yeah.
like, there's like if
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it big, I gotta
Move to
do
the
it.
city.
Yeah, I gotta do
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah,
kinda thing.
exactly. Yep. So yeah. I
So
think
that's.
it.
I feel like everybody's conversation. I feel like we did it without arguing.
Yeah.
And everybody loves to argue. Oh my God, they love to argue. It'll break down into politics at some point.
Oh
It
my
absolutely
gosh.
will.
Yeah.
But that's how I felt. Maybe I like the Atlanta's kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think small town living is great. I loved like growing up in a place that felt like a small town. Huntsville wasn't as big back then. And I felt like that was awesome. So it's just a weird thing. It's just like if you haven't grown up in a small town, you're probably not going to want to move back. But if you get the chance and you move into the city, you're going to know what it feels like. And if you're watching this and you live in a small town, you want to move in a city and see what it's like, I've had a lot of people do it. We have one right here.
Yeah.
And she's having a great time.
Yep, it's a great place to be, and I mean, even if you just want to rent some place and just see if you like it or not, before actually purchasing something, then
Yeah.
either way, I think it'll be a good move.
If you know a friend,
So-
maybe like couch surf with a friend for a week.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a week you
Yeah.
kind of get it in your system.
Uh-huh. That's pretty good. I feel like this was a good conversation.
Yeah.
And hopefully this helps you guys, to decide if you guys actually want to move to the city or just stay in the small town living. Either way is fine. People like what they like, and I think either way you'll make the most of it, and it'll be a good time for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, we're going to wrap it up for today. Sorry to let you guys go. If you made it to the end of this, then you
Yes.
are literally a #1 fan. If you're watching YouTube channel with less than
Yes.
200 subscribers and you made it, I don't know how long into the video we are, but
Right.
happy to have you here. I'm going to put both of our information in the description below. We'll both be happy to help you out and just see what you need, see what kind of things you align with. If you like the suburbs more, if you like the city more, we can help you out. We've been through both, obviously, and more than willing to see what's going on in your situation and how we can help. But that should be it for today. This is Irish Jaimes. I'm Steve Carson, and so happy to have you guys. We'll catch you around on the next one. Thank you.